Hanigek ol, how are your stomachs? Oh, no, 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 I'm not asking about your appetite. I'm asking about your well-being. Hanigek ol, or literally, how are your stomachs, is a way of asking, how are you all, how are you guys, in Chuch, an indigenous language of Guatemala. I worked on it during my linguistic studies. It's part of the Mayan language family. In Mayan cultures, the abdomen, or the stomach, is the place where emotions are stored and felt, like the heart in Western cultures. This is reflected in Chuch in a question as basic as how are you? Isn't that cool, guys? Ever since I was a child, I've been lit up by a passion for the languages and cultures of our world. Throughout my life, that light has led me to meeting people from all over the world, even working with them and befriending them. All of those people, in their own way, have passed on their light to me and have taught me what it means to be human. I have learned more about humanity through its languages and the cultures and people that underlie them. Unfortunately, just like not all people are treated equally, not all languages are treated equally either. Not all languages have the same level of health and vitality. Far from it. In the most optimistic of predictions, if the trend continues, at least half of the 6,000 to 7,000 languages in the world today may cease to be spoken by the next century. We call them endangered languages, and they are found in all continents of the world. Although some languages have already gone extinct or dormant throughout history, the speed at which they are doing so today is unprecedented. But when we say a language is endangered, what does that mean concretely? Well, usually when linguists talk about an endangered language, they mean it's a language that is no longer passed down to the next generation. In other words, it's no longer the norm in a given community for children to be raised in and use that language. This leads to a risk of the language being spoken by fewer and fewer people as decades go by. And because of that, there are thousands of languages today in the world that are spoken only by older adults or even the elderly. But oh man, how does that happen? Well, there are a variety of reasons. It could be genocide, mass disease, natural disasters, mass displacements. However, in most cases, especially nowadays, it happens when the ethnic people still exist and still identify with the language culturally, but have switched to speaking another language in daily life, usually one that is more dominant or prestigious in their broader society. Usually it happens when because the parents were oppressed or mistreated as children for their languages and don't want their own children to go through the same thing. Or sometimes, as with many Indigenous people of Canada, the parents weren't even able to pass on their languages, even if they wanted to. They had completely forgotten it after spending years in schools where they were severely abused if they were caught speaking a word of it. As you can see, in all cases, it's not a good thing. And it's not an isolated event either. You see, a language never dies in a vacuum. Language death is nearly always paired with and caused by another form of suffering or another. Racism, colonization, forced displacement, discrimination, you name it. The surrounding context is never a desirable one. And to me, that's precisely why language death is such a serious issue. A very common and valid reason for why endangered languages matter is that when we lose a language, we also lose the knowledge and culture that were embedded in it. And that's so true. Languages are way more than just words, sounds, and grammar. Languages are also carriers of an entire background of stories, worldviews, history, culture, and creativity of the people that speak them. When we lose a language, we also lose a part of our collective human genius, and that's a loss for everyone, not just the people directly involved. That's why it's incredibly important to document endangered languages in partnership with their speakers. That way, should those people ever want to make their language spoken again in the future, they will have the necessary references to do so. But why should those people even want to make their languages spoken again, right? I mean, if all we're worried about is the loss of the knowledge and culture, then just document it and keep it in archives like fossils in a museum. People will go there, read about it, and it will never be lost. So like, why are we worried about people speaking their languages again? Remember earlier when I talked about language death being tied to other forms of suffering? See, I think language is the most profoundly human thing there is on earth. The state of our languages reflects the state of our humanity. Behind every language, including marginalized and endangered languages, there are people. When a language isn't doing well, that's a sign that the people behind it aren't doing well. And that's why endangered languages should be revitalized, appreciated, valued, and given just as legitimate of a place in our societies as major languages. But some may say, however, that even if almost all languages die, what does it matter? I mean, in the long run, the world will still go round and life will go on. Well, I guess even if we humans disappear from the face of the earth, the world will still go round too, won't it? Animals, trees, the sun and the moon, stars, all of that will still be there. And life will absolutely go on in the long run, really just fine without us. So what does it matter if we all die and go extinct, right? It's okay, I get it. But I get it. It can be difficult. I know it can be difficult to imagine what it must feel like for speakers of a dominant language. It's difficult for them sometimes to imagine what it must feel like for their language to stop being spoken. So think of it this way. Imagine that you, after spending your whole life seeing the world around you all in color, suddenly wake up one morning and you see everything only in gray, no more colors. How do you feel? You used to take your ability to see color for granted in the past, but now that you've lost it, don't you feel like everything seems so dull, boring, and monotone around you compared to before? I know, right? And now let's say that later on you have children, and those children were born already seeing everything only in gray from birth. They've never even experienced seeing colors their entire lives. They probably won't know what they're missing, right? To them, it won't feel like anything's wrong because they don't know any better. They've never even seen colors. They don't know that colors even can exist, right? So they don't know what they're missing out on. And that's very common. That's a very common occurrence when a language disappears and no one knows about it. And now, even if I ask you right now, like, are you able to create a color that doesn't exist and describe it to me? Go ahead. Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, so that's really sad, right? It's really crushing when you know about it. But is there something we can do? Is there hope? I believe there is. While it is true that languages are disappearing at a faster rate than ever, it's also true that efforts to promote and revitalize them are also stronger than ever. Many examples. There are some languages that used to experience huge oppression in the past and have declined, but now, today in 2024, they are slowly but surely experiencing a rise in speakers. So many, like Hawaiian, Basque, Irish, Welsh, Wolof, so many languages, and and you may not even have heard of some of them before. Yeah, right. But they used to be extremely oppressed, and even to this day might be a little bit still. But the number of speakers is rising, and the interest is growing in them. And there are artists that sing in their minority and indigenous languages. For example, even here in Quebec, there are many prolific singers from the Innu indigenous nation. You may have heard of Florent Volant, Katia Rock, so many others like that. And there are pop singers from the Quechua people in Peru that cover Michael Jackson in Quechua. And there are metal bands in New Zealand from the Maori people that sing heavy metal in Maori. Like, wow, there's so many examples. And some countries have even named their endangered languages as official in the countries. For example, did you know that Bolivia has 37 official languages? Official languages. Yeah, Bolivia. That's really cool, right? And you know what? Even you guys, even though you may not be part of the field or the expertise of endangered languages, you too can do something about it. Yeah, you. Oh yeah. through some small daily gestures and attitudes. Really small. Well, first of all, if you yourself speak a language that is endangered or in a minority position, please, by all means, speak it, write it, sing it, pass it on to children and younger people. Use it as often as you can with as many people as you can. Please know that your language became endangered not due to its so-called inadequacy or uselessness, but due to human, social, and political factors, none of which have anything to do with the language itself. The more you use your language, the more you'll inspire people in your community, and perhaps even beyond, to do the same. And you know what the best thing is? You know what the best thing is? It's that it's free and it's not mutually exclusive with also being able to speak a more dominant language. We can be bilingual or even multilingual, right? Yeah. And now, on the other hand, if you don't speak an endangered language or minority language, here's what you can do. Well, you know how I think we all have at least that one language or culture that for some unexplainable reason, we just feel attracted by, right? Maybe you have a close friend or a colleague or a romantic partner that speaks a language that you don't, or that you may not even known existed before. Maybe, you never know. Or maybe you love Japanese, maybe you're attracted to Japanese because you love anime, to Korean because you love K-pop, to Hindi because you love Bollywood, or whatever. So yeah, it can be for any reason. Or you could be part of a minority community yourself, and maybe your parents or grandparents speak the language but you don't, and you want to reconnect with your heritage. Whatever the reason is, whatever the language, whatever the reason is, find your motivation, listen to it, and go through with it. And keep in mind here that the goal is just to open your mind even just a little bit and learn a bit more about a new culture and language you didn't know before, and meet new people and live new experiences. To get all those benefits, those lasting life benefits, you don't necessarily need to be super duper amazingly extra fluent in the language. You can just learn a couple words and use them with the people you know that speak those languages, and just with that, they will be already so heartwarmed. Especially if it's a language that is not very well known in the wider public around the world. Like I said, like Wolof, Basque, Irish, not many people know about them, but they are spoken by millions of people for some of them, but they're not that well known. Yeah, so it'll heartwarm them a lot. Yeah, and I like to compare this to sports, right? I compare this to sports because, you don't have to be a world-class athlete or an Olympic champion to just have fun playing a sport you enjoy and to get health benefits from it, right? Same thing with languages. And also, wouldn't it be cool if we could, explore, just try to explore a wider range of languages than only the same ones we're always shown, like English, French, Spanish, etc. I think that might provide space for endangered languages to at least just be more acknowledged and better known about, and it might sensitize people to the issues surrounding them. It may also lead to some fantastic discoveries that you'd never imagined before. Who knows? After all, a choice isn't really a choice until you're aware of all the available options. Another way we can promote and revitalize endangered languages could be to change the way we think about language itself, what it is. So let me ask you this. What is a language? In her best-selling book, Because Internet, Gretchen McCulloch asked herself that question about the English language. She looked up the words English language on Google Images and 20 other stock photo sites. And guess what she found? Books. Tons of pictures of books and also dictionaries. And I think that's what many of us would have thought about too, right? Yeah, understandably. She then goes on to say, but the book metaphor has run its course. Just as early analogies of the brain compared it to a steam engine or a hydraulic pump, while many modern neuroscientists invoke computers as a metaphor, our language metaphors too need to evolve with the times. Yeah, so now, let's now take a moment to think about what language is at its very core. Language is communication. Communication, what is it? Communication is contact with another, getting in touch with another, opening up to another. We don't use language only while reading books, do we? We use language all the time for practically everything. Sports enthusiasts use language to share their excitement over that amazing goal. And meme makers and social media users use language to share their shenanigans with the world, don't they? Yeah, that's it. We communicate, we relate, we share with each other through language, whether that's an oral language, a sign language, or a written form of both. And sometimes you don't even need words at all. I mean, just lying on the beach, watching the sunset with a person you love, just that alone can communicate more than words can sometimes. Language is the entirety of our human experience, in all of its diversity, in all of its ups and downs. Every single language and every single variety within a language too is one piece of our whole complex human puzzle. If even one goes missing, the puzzle is incomplete, no matter how readily one can notice it. And everyone, every single person, no matter what they do in life, no matter who they are, gets to play the game. Language is humanity. And without humanity, why are we even here? Chanigek ol, remember what this means? Yeah, nice job, yeah. No matter which languages you know or want to learn, no matter how many languages you know or want to learn, no matter how well you speak them or babble them, I do hope you will value the existence of every single one of them and that you will understand the fundamental role each one plays in making us human. Because in the end, that really is what matters the most in a language and in life in general. Thank you.